Hello again, Mark Garcia here with CrushingTheCreditBureaus.com and ImproveMyCreditScoreWorkshop.com. In this next video segment, I'm going to share with you 13 of the battle-tested dispute tactics that we use to get negative information off your credit report. Now there's 31 that we cover in the workshop and in my book, Crushing the Credit Bureaus, that you can find at CrushingTheCreditBureaus.com. But these 13 that I'm going to share with you have been time-tested. This is what myself, when I was going through my credit nightmare and got my scores up into the 800s, it's also what my students, colleagues, and family members have been using. Traditionally, most of the information out on the internet or in books that you can buy at the bookstore or even from friends and colleagues has been to, well listen, if you've got something negative on your account that you want to get rid of, simply send a letter to the credit bureau, make sure it's return receipt requested, quote all these different citations from the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and demand that they delete that information if they can't prove it's yours, and if they don't do it within 30 days by law, they have to get it off your credit report. Guys, I'm here to tell you that simply just doesn't work as effectively anymore. It still works in some cases, but for the most part, it doesn't. In previous segments, I've shared with you how the credit bureaus really, the masters that they serve are the issuing banks, the larger lending institutions, as well as the utility companies and insurance companies. Okay, they're not there for us. So when you send about it, let's just get a little background about how the dispute process works. When you send in your dispute to a credit bureau, okay, it costs them money to process that dispute. You get that, right? Somebody has to physically open up the letter, they have to read the dispute, and then they have a few minutes, because they are processing so many disputes, to decide whether to pursue it or not. Have you ever disputed something on your credit report and you've got a form letter back from the credit bureau that says, hey, it appears as though somebody was trying to dispute something on your credit account, but it seems frivolous, so we're not disputing it. Okay, that's a stall tactic that the credit bureaus used to and still use. Well, in that process that I just mentioned to you about actually having a human being, a worker that the credit bureaus would have to pay, an hourly wage, by the way, to do, and you've got thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands, matter of fact, of disputes coming into your offices and into your mailroom, do you think you would not be trying to find out a faster, easier, quicker, better, faster way to get rid of those disputes that cost you money? Because remember, they don't make money with us. They make money by selling information about us to the banks and to the credit card issuers. Well, now they have an automatic process, the ACDV process, and I've got that listed down here on the bottom of the screen, that when you send your dispute in, a human being never even sees your dispute. Your dispute letter gets processed by a computer. And by the way, what was that old information that they used to tell us on how to dispute negative or incorrect information in our credit reports? It was typically you had to give them your name, your social security number, your date of birth, and your address. And then say what you were disputing and then quote some sort of legalese from the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Well guys, a human being never even sees that anymore. It gets scanned by the computer, they go through, they cross-reference the account number that you've listed in, and guess, by the way, what are the easiest things for just about any account to be verified with? Your name, your social security, your date of birth, and your address. So if they don't send you out the frivolous dispute letter, they'll then send you out a letter that says, this thing has been verified, we're not going to investigate it again. And some of the bureaus may not have to investigate that once again, or you may have to wait 3 to 6 months to investigate it again. So the whole process, guys, that what we've been told on how to dispute information is completely worthless. Now you've got two choices in that process. When you send in those letters, and by the way, the credit bureaus don't need your part-time lawyer expertise when you send in. And we talk a lot about that in my book, how we actually do a dispute, but let me give you a few tips and techniques that you can use. When you send in a dispute letter, send in a copy of your driver's license and a current copy of a utility bill. Okay, the reason we do that is when you send that in, and that's part of your dispute letter, the credit bureaus can't come back to you and say that, wow, it seems as though somebody who's not you is sending in this dispute, and about 9 times out of 10, you'll stop that whole frivolous form letter being sent out to you. So I always recommend to my students and clients, put in a copy of your driver's license, put in a copy of a utility bill when you send in your dispute. Also, we don't send out our items certified mail return receipt requested. I promise you, when those get into the mailroom at the credit bureau, they know it's coming from some form letter from somebody off the internet. They're going to open it up and they're going to toss it into the frivolous site, or they're going to say, listen, we're not even going to investigate this. Now you can send it out registered mail, which is actually cheaper, by the way. You'll get a delivery confirmation, and that's good enough for your record keeping that shows that they did receive the dispute letter that you sent in. So listen, some of the 13 tactics that I recommend my students, my colleagues work with is, instead of, which we've already established, the easiest way for the credit bureaus to verify something is by your name, by your address, by your social security, and by your date of birth, is to not dispute that the account's not yours. Do you realize over 80% of the information that's contained in all of our credit reports is wrong? What I mean by wrong is the date the account was opened, the date of last activity. Is the status current or not current? Heck, up until just a short time ago, Capital One, and they got fined heavily by the U.S. government, Capital One would never report your credit limit. When they did that, it caused the FICO scoring algorithm to show that you were at 100% utilization all the time. Why did Capital One do that? Because if they kept your scores low enough, you couldn't qualify for other competitors' credit cards. Dirty little trick, yes. Deceitful, yes. Did they happily pay the millions in fines that they were levied against? Yes, they did. Why? Because they made so much more money doing it the other way. So instead of disputing that, hey, this account's not mine and it's easy for the credit bureaus to verify that it is yours, we go after the information that's listed in each of the accounts. And when you send in your letter, guys, by the way, you make it very simple. You've provided your copy of your utility bill, copy of your driver's license. You've listed the account number. You simply say what is missing or what is incorrect in that account, and you ask for deletion. That's it. No legalese, no quoting Section 4 of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and how you'll threaten to sue. I mean, guys, they hear that all the time. Okay, that's not going to work. So of the 13 techniques, I'll give you a few here listed, and actually you'll see some of those listed up here on the site as I'm talking right now. Just go through this list, and in your own words, don't use my words, but pick some of those items that I have listed of the 13, such as, hey, the status is incorrect, such as the date of last activity is incorrect, the balance is wrong. If it's a negative account, there's well over 31, but I've listed 13 here for you that you go after. Again, you're not saying the account is not yours. Okay, if you read the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the credit bureaus by law are required to keep accurate, up-to-date information. If something isn't accurate or up-to-date, you're requesting deletion. Now, guys, you're using this, by the way, only on your negative accounts. If you have positive accounts, you don't want to try and change anything there. This is only for negative information that's showing up. So whether that's a late collection, a judgment, a charge-off, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, a repossession, a late payment on something that you've had, this is what we're going to go after, and this is how you get those deletions of that negative information on your credit report. Again, we're not sending in saying this isn't ours. We're saying that the information's incorrect, so we're identifying the account, we're telling them what's wrong, and we're telling them we want deletion. Send in letters like those, guys, in your own word. Send them in registered mail with the delivery confirmation. You'll get probably 85–90% of negative information taken off your credit reports in the first run. We'll see you on the next segment. Mark Garcia, CrushingTheCreditBureaus.com.